making a joint and inclusive government. But what happened was that security forces left and they abandoned their places, and we were forced to ask our forces to enter and take over security.
Since then, there's been concern over how the Taliban will govern. In a press conference this week, the group said women will work shoulder to shoulder with men, but within the country is a Sharia law.
The point of Crucial Afghan Talks was precisely that we come to an agreement about what those rights actually entail. Sharia law was known to everyone, and there's no ambiguities about the rights of women, the rights of men, not only women, but also the rights of men and children. And right now we're in a situation that hopefully during the consultation there will be clarification about what those rights are.
The Taliban is also reported to have conducted raids on homes, targeted killings, and harassed government and civil society figures. The Taliban denies the claims, but said it is investigating cases of criminality.
Our foremost priority is discipline in our own ranks and not uh, enforcing laws on others, but enforcing it on ourselves first and then giving it as an example to the rest of society. And our members, if they are involved in such things, will be the first to be prosecuted.
Some Taliban leaders remain on watch lists and under sanctions, including the group deputy leader Sirajuddin Haqqani. As the US leaves Afghanistan and the Taliban enters government, I asked his thoughts on the term terrorist.
Well, I don't think people believe we are terrorists. It was just the war on terror. It was just a term coined by the United States. And anyone that did not fall in line with labeled terrorists.
Bolton said the Taliban wants to move forward, urged stakeholders, both domestic and international, to cooperate on common interests. As the group takes the reins of government, many Afghans will be hoping it can and will execute such a vision. Charlotte Ellis, Al Jazeera, Kabul.
India has been evacuating its nationals and some Afghan minorities from Kabul. The Indian Air Force has been deployed to carry out repatriation flights. 2 Afghan politicians and dozens of Sikhs were rescued and brought to India. India is issuing emergency visas to allow Afghans to stay for 6 months. People who have been living in Afghanistan not see there, but we see now everything is finished. The government that was built in 20 years is finished. Everything is finished. And it is zero now.
The situation was very bad over there, so that's why we came here. When Taliban took my Indian brothers and sisters, I was there along with my son-in-law, daughter, and 2 grandchildren. We were with them for at least 5 hours and told them that the brothers and sisters from India have come for our help for Afghanistan. But still, they ill-treated us.
Oman from the devastating earthquake that hit Haiti. Survivors are facing severe shortages of aid and shelter. The government has been criticized for its response to the disaster. Our team went to one makeshift camp for survivors appalling conditions. John Holman has that from a location called the Kai.
The Kai Football Stadium has turned into a rough camp for those left homeless by Saturday's earthquake, and a symbol of the lack of health infrastructure. Scores of families are struggling in this muddy field. With no water, toilets, or effective shelter, a piece of plastic to cover your family is a luxury.
In the rain, we get wet. The down, we get wet. We don't have a tarpaulin. We have nothing but problems.
When we visited them, they did their almost to do, but nobody could be better than comfort. Even worse, either sides the seriously polarized, being taken by folks, even law enforcement officers.
Not my things
gave away. Back. When you go to the police station, you see them, they cars.
Corruption has long been woven into Haitian political life, but right now that the president recently assassinated, sheer organizational capacity also seems to fall through. Here you see the result. Money, hungry people, all but exposed to the elements.
What really strikes you when you come in here is that these aren't even tents. They're just blankets, bit of plastic that are held together on sticks. So we're right in the middle of Haitian rainy season right now, and a decent storm is just going to knock all of this out.
Vanessa Richmond is cooking for others, trying to earn enough for herself and her 4 children to survive and maybe even get out.
I want to get a place to live with my children because I can't spend all my life here. Imagine it was raining last night, I couldn't sleep. I had to give my mattress to my children and I sat on a bucket to sleep.
Some people are leaving as we could. Constant fights over food and shelter have worn them down. But they told us they're only going to another abandoned block. There's no safe place, no help for them anywhere else. Joe Morgan, Al Jazeera, we're coming.
Well, rescue crews from Mexico have now joined the search for survivors and bodies in Haiti. They say the chances of finding people alive is unlikely, but still possible. 2,000 people have confirmed dead, as have been reporting more than 300 though are still missing. One more people are being killed by landmines in northern Colombia, despite the government signing a peace deal with the revolutionary arm.
This is the route Efrain takes to get home. He lives in Colombia's Catatumbo region near Venezuela's border. The land is beautiful, but landmines scattered by armed groups also make it dangerous. Efrain also make it dangerous. Efrain lost his right eye when an explosion went off. Years later, his life was shattered again. He lost his right eye when an explosion went off. Years later, his life was shattered again when his brother was killed in another blast. The time has done little to ease his pain.
You don't want to live in an area like this because there's nowhere else to go. Wherever you go, there's no work. So what else can you do? You never thought my brother would be killed by a landmine.
Ivan lost his leg in an explosion. At 24, he relies on his family, including his son, for help.
Yo cuando me di cuenta estaba en el cuerpo. When the landmine exploded, I realized it had fallen into a hole. There was smoke and a lot of dirt on top of it. I was conscious the entire time. My dad started screaming, "Son, are you alive?"
Similar stories are becoming more frequent in Colombia. During the first 6 months of this year, more than 260 people, including 21 children, were killed or injured by landmines. Last year, there were nearly 400 victims. That's about 6 times higher than in 2017. Much of the land was controlled by the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC. When a peace agreement was signed with the government in 2016, most fighters left, but some stayed. They formed other groups that are now competing with rivals. They include drug traffickers who set landmines indiscriminately to try and extend their control and their profits from local peoples. The International Committee of the Red Cross is going to remote areas, training communities on how to avoid landmines and explosive devices.
Often the psychological impact on people's mental health isn't visible, but it's still quite high in these areas where explosions go off.
While bouts of violence along parts of the Colombia-Venezuela border aren't unusual, this recent escalation is worrying families whose lives have already been changed by conflict. Asia Lopez-Villan, Al Jazeera.
Thousands of parents and teachers in Peru have joined rallies pushing for the schools there to be reopened. Most children haven't been in class since March of last year. That was when the government closed all educational facilities because of the pandemic. Marian Sanchez has been at one demonstration in Lima.
Children, parents, and teachers marching together. Without studying online since March of last year.
We want to go back to school. We don't want to stay trapped at home behind a screen. We want to go back.
Parents say homeschooling is taking its toll. Children are not learning enough or suffering as a result. They know how to wear masks, are more concerned about their mental health, and not up for too long. The pandemic hit, nearly 40% of schools have infrastructure problems, some lack of healthy environments, without sewage or people running water. These protesters say more than 60,000 schools are ready to receive students. The government prefers to favor the economy before education.
There's no balance in the policies. I go to a mall where there are thousands of people walking around who seem unconcerned about COVID.
According to a recent UNESCO study, Peru is one of 8 countries whose schools have remained fully closed up until now. More than 10% of schools are partially open, most in rural areas. Still, poor children are most affected by homeschool. 12-year-old Rebecca, small daughter from North Syria, shared the only cell phone that could be almost to Skype, and it doesn't always work.
It's
difficult. Sometimes we lose the signal, other times we lose the signal, other times we don't have our There's very little children who are children in school. Recent opinion poll says nearly 7% of parents want schools reopened. Experts say the decision is a risky balance.
And honestly, the risks are very high for where you go back to school with the risk of contagion. We don't, if possible, ignore this for our children's future.
On Friday, the government declared a state of emergency for its education system.
The government considers it too risky to send all the children back to school, not only for them, but for the teachers. Less than 50% of them have received the vaccine.
Officials say the third wave of coronavirus is just beginning, and thousands of people are dying. That's why they say fully reopening schools now is simply out of the question. Sanchez, I just see that in
Millions of people on the US East Coast are being warned to prepare as Hurricane Henri approaches. It's expected to make landfall at Long Island in New York State later in the coming few hours. State of emergencies in place in those in Henri's path in order to evacuate. Experts say Henri will be the first hurricane to make landfall in that region in more than 30 years. Well, the approaching storm ushered a concert in New York celebrating the city's legends from the rest of the building. We sounds like a joke despite the little background noise that people talk about. Like these flights were reported in the latest story from the This is Al Jazeera. These are the top stories. Thousands of people in Afghanistan are still struggling to get out. The UK military says 7 people have been crushed to death at Kabul airport. It's describing conditions as extremely challenging. Right, as more from Kabul.
There still seems to be the same levels of chaos there at the airport. It's very difficult to see just what the end is going to be. It's still thronged by people outside the airport. Many of them saying that they have legitimate documents, they are eligible to get on an evacuation flight. We're just trying to process those people amongst all the chaos. We're trying to see how they're going to get on flights through these gates, through the Taliban checkpoints. It's very difficult. And of course, there are hundreds, if not thousands of other people who just can't go up. They're just going to the airport, staying at the airport, on the off chance that they might get something.
Israel has carried out airstrikes in Gaza Strip after protests at the border. Security forces being released from Palestinian demonstrators. Israel said protesters were locked. Lebanon's government is increasing the price of gasoline by 66%. Partial reduction in fuel subsidies has meant to ease a severe food shortage. Earlier this month, the central bank said it cannot fund fuel imports at subsidized exchange rates. A week on from Haiti's devastating earthquake, survivors are facing severe shortages of aid and shelter. The government is facing mounting condemnation for its response. More than 2,000 people were killed. Thousands of parents and teachers in Peru have rallied to call on the government to reopen schools for the shut in March of last year because of the pandemic. Australia's most populous state has reported another record high in coronavirus infections. New South Wales reported 830 locally acquired cases of the highly contagious Delta variant. A rare hurricane is approaching the northeast coast of the US. Henri will be the first hurricane to make landfall there in 30 years. It's expected to hit Long Island in New York State. Up next, with more rebels, we will see you very soon for the moment.
As the resurgent Taliban retakes Afghanistan, female activists, journalists, and even schoolgirls are under threat. 101 East investigates the fight for Afghanistan's women on Al Jazeera.
La violence.